This is section 11.2, which is on compound interest. Compound interest comes right after simple interest. I want you to remember those simple interest formulas that we used, which was I equals PRT to calculate the simple interest on an account, and A equals P times 1 plus RT. Those were my simple interest formulas. That is for simple interest. The big thing with simple interest is when you have simple interest, it is interest on the original amount. So let me write that now. So now that I've written it out, that it's interest on the original amount, let me just use a quick, easy example. Imagine if we had $100 was what we put into an account, and we had an interest rate of 10% per year. If we did this for 1 year, and we used I equals PRT, plugging in the numbers, we would have I equals 100 times 0.1 times 1. I'm trying to use easy numbers here. You should have a total of $10 of interest. So if I put $100 into an account, I would get $10 of interest. So after 1 year, I would have a total of, if I did A equals P times 1 plus RT and plugged in these numbers, I'd end up with, or I could have just done A equals P plus I now that I've calculated it. I would have ended up with $110. So the question becomes, how much would I have after 2 years? Well, in a simple interest account, you always get that same amount of interest. That amount of interest that we're talking about here is that $10 of interest, because that interest always comes from the original value. So after 2 years, so that would be after 1 year right here, after 2 years, I would have, add another $10, I'd have another $120. After 3 years, I'd have another $10, so that'd be $130, and so on. This is how it would continue. You always get $10 of interest, that $10 of interest coming from the initial investment amount. That is simple interest. That is not how the majority of the real world works. The majority of the real world works on compound interest. So what's the difference between compound interest and simple interest? Here's the difference. The interest for simple interest is always going to be $10 on this one. For compound interest, if I had compounding annually at 10% interest, $100, exact same problem, except it compounds. When we calculate the interest for that second year, so when we're coming in and trying to see how much money would I have on that second year, I do not take interest off the original $100. I actually take interest now off of the new amount. So simple interest is always off the original amount, compound interest is always off of the new amount. So thinking about this, when I come in and I calculate my interest for the second year, this is going to be my new quote-unquote p-value. So if I was doing I equals PRT, I would use that new amount, which would be 110 times the 10% for 1 more year. And now instead of getting $10 of interest, I'd actually be getting $11 of interest. So the total amount there would be the 110 plus the $11 that I got in interest. So after 2 years, I would now have $121. Again, if I wanted to see what it would be for the third year, I'd use I equals PRT, but I would use the new amount. So there would be 121 times that 10% interest for 1 more year. So that total amount would be, looks like, what would I get? $12.10. So if I wanted to know my total after 3 years, I would have the $121 plus another $12.10, which would be a total of $133.10. If you compare it, this compound amount is higher than the simple interest amount. So again, what's the difference between the two? With simple interest, you're always getting the same amount of interest, which is the interest off of the original loan. A compound amount, you're going to get interest based off of the new amount. This was compounding annually, but we don't have to compound it annually. We can compound it multiple different ways. So if you read through, they do an example just like that, talking about investing $1,000 at 5%. I just discussed $100 at 10% to use easier numbers for you. You can get through all of this. They do talk about the compounding period. The compounding period is going to be a new variable for us, a new letter for us. Compounding period is going to be N, the letter N for us. So let me write that right there. Compounding period is going to be N. And let's go on to the next page to look at the formulas.